start off with you. Succession planning, I guess, is probably one of the biggest minefields that a family can have.
Yeah, it is. Succession planning is something that everybody should consider when they have an asset of some sort. It becomes particularly relevant in the rural sector because of farms. You know, we have farms that have been 2, 3, sometimes 4 generations that have stayed within the same family. So succession planning is really, really important to ensure that the right people get the right assets and is passed on from generation to generation. It's extremely important. There are a lot of different options in succession planning and estate planning now, and it's certainly not an area that Barbara Lee or I are experts in setting that up. But insurance itself can form part of that, because insurance can form part of the funding process that may be required to have an effective succession or estate plan when it needs to be put into action.
So Barbara Lee, this is more than just writing a will.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. You want to know where the funds are going to come from in order to, you know, keep that farm in the family and treat all siblings fairly. So, you know, if one particular person wants to be left to run the farm, then how are the other siblings going to be paid out? And so, you know, we can sort of show that insurance funding is a really cost-effective and great way of providing that certainty for the families, as opposed to bank funding, for example.
Exactly, because this really is where you get one member of the family, Hank, who's taking it over, and if they don't have a lump sum, that farm is supporting up to 3 or 4 other families.
Yeah, correct. And those the other siblings may want to have a purpose for the value of the farm. Or it doesn't have to be a farm. It can be a family business. It can be any family business where mum and dad have started the business, and the business has grown and been successful. One of the children naturally falls into the business because they have a natural want to do that as
their own flair.
Yeah, absolutely. And then mum and dad pass that on, or they pass literally. And then what happens to the assets? What happens to those? You know, each of the siblings, and there might be, say, 3 brothers and sisters, and one is the sibling or who's going to naturally take over the business. Does that mean the other 2 have no entitlement to the value of that business? I don't think so. And realistically, and we're certainly not legal advisors, but realistically, common sense tells us that each of those siblings realistically should be entitled to an equal part of the wealth or the estate of what the family have and what they've developed. And that's the business.
Barbara Lee, Hank's just said you're not legal advisors, so I'm assuming that you would work with the lawyers and accountants.
Absolutely. Yep. You need a team of experts in there giving you advice in each area. As Hank said, you know, our expertise is around the funding mechanism of providing the right insurance policy that's going to pay out at the right time. You know, they're not all equal in that regard. So, you know, we know where to source the right product for that type of plan.
We're assuming that somebody's died.
Yeah, that's what estate planning is all about. You know, succession planning. What happens to the assets of that particular person or persons? You know, it might be 2 people together, and it might be through an accident. It doesn't necessarily have to be through an ailment. And what happens to their assets? How does that get distributed evenly, equitably between the people who are entitled to that? And that's generally the family. That's generally the family. And understand that a will is not necessarily in concrete. You know, sometimes a will can be described as your best wishes. They're not in concrete. You know, people have the right to contest wills, and there may be somebody right out of left field that has an entitlement to that will that you're not aware of, and that can just cause a minefield. And understand this: everyone has the right to contest a will. Once that will's contested, that could take time. And the other person who's going to, you know, win out of that is probably the lawyers who are going to fight that. So it's important to make sure that your succession plan, that your estate planning is done clearly with open communications with everyone involved, and done and regularly reviewed, so that as your circumstances change and as the family circumstances change, so should you reflect that back onto what your succession planning or your estate planning needs to do.
Yep. Barbara Lee, very briefly, as a advisor, you've just had a victory.
I have, yes. So, you know, one of the most important things for us is that we're there for our clients at claim time. And that's where the product that you put in place, we take it to the companies and, you know, this is what we expect to have as a result. And recently I had a claim declined, and it was a legitimate claim. It shouldn't be declined. So the first thing you do is, you know, you go into bat for your client. And, you know, that because I did that for a client, I've obviously had it reversed. But it makes me worry about people that aren't being looked after by an advisor. You know, if they're going to the banks or online, they've got an 0800 number with a customer service rep looking after their claim, and that will often lead to a disaster.
Exactly. Well done, and keep up the good work, you two.